it was a matter of saying, like, what am I good at? What am I not so good at? What could I be good at? What do I want to become? What do I have no idea about? And how do I essentially package that into a role that it suits me and that serves me, as well as obviously it serves the company and helps the business and helps my co-founder and the rest of the team.
I actually thought about the skills that I had and the skills that I really like using. And that was, looking at a lot of information, extracting insights and package them into something that was interesting and useful to different sorts of people.
Definitely struggled with imposter syndrome. So there was a matter of saying, I had tried to start a business during my PhD and it failed. Not an easy thing to juggle doing a PhD and starting a company. And so then I thought there was also this matter of, I moved into a totally different domain to kind of get over that head tape that I kept telling myself of, like, I've never done this before, I'm not an expert, I don't know how to do it. And to actually realize that those skills of, knowing how to do research, knowing how to ask questions, knowing how to set hypotheses, knowing how to think of different methodologies, whether it's qualitative, whether it's quantitative, is actually the same thing that you do when building a company.
The imposter syndrome, affects everyone, all of us. I think that's particularly the case when people have an academic background. And then secondly, I think there are training courses you can do. There are online courses even you can go on, but I think have confidence that the skills you gain in social science training, as many people have said on this call, the methodologies are applicable across different contexts. You just need to learn a different way of describing them.
You have to live with chaos and you have to live with uncertainty. If you can't do that, you might not be right in a startup because everything's a bit chaotic. Your startup might pivot at any moment for whatever reason that you might not even be aware of. And that's all things that, you just need to deal with.
You also have to be comfortable with being on the steep part of the learning curve, if that makes sense. I feel like in academia, academic research happens at the less steep parts of the learning curve. So you read a lot about the topic, you know the topic really, really well. And in the commercial setting, you don't really have time to get there. So you have time to read up a little bit on the new topic that you have to work on. So you're on the steep part, you're very, not quite certain yet, but you still have to deliver a solution to a problem. And that is sometimes, it feels sometimes uncomfortable, but it's also very interesting from a personal perspective.
I can't do this because I haven't studied X, I don't have an MBA, I'm not good at quantitative, I'm not good at qualitative, I haven't done a PhD, I haven't done a master's, or I've done all of this and actually I don't have enough business experience. And all of these kind of, basically these stories we tell ourselves around why we can't do it. I think it's challenging those to actually say, I've done some pretty cool stuff and I can learn. And there's no reason that there needs to be this really big barrier between these two worlds. Because it's for profit, it doesn't mean that it's at the expense of the people or the communities or the environment or whatever that's using it. And I think that's just a really important differentiator. And I think has been, once kind of getting over that barrier, has been a massive almost awakening to all the people that are doing really phenomenal good work and are able to actually do that work because they're not restricted by funding, they're not restricted by reporting, they're not restricted by basically kind of hierarchies of decision making. And so I think, there's actually, in some ways, I found more ability to do that positive social work than I would have found if I'd stayed in nonprofits and if I'd stayed in academia.
Challenge assumptions about what is the problem we're looking to address about our product. Do we understand it well? Are we understanding our user needs correctly? Do we understand the target audience correctly? Is the solution and features that we're designing actually tackling that problem, or are they just adding noise to the issue? And are we actually serving our users correctly? Our role as social scientists is to bring in that rigor and really sell it well in a way that's not, confrontational, but it's actually, this is what the research evidence is showing. We can use all these evidence-based frameworks to address these problems, and it's going to lead to a more effective product in the end. So part of it is challenging those mental models of what science and research is within business. I think was one of the key things that I think I came across moving from academia to business.
I thought it was a really interesting experience for me to actually almost learn how to do science to the same level of quality, but with a much different time scale, or letting go of the kind of perfectionism that often comes, or the kind of like unending loop of when is this actually finished that can come with science.
It also comes back to like commercial realities. So I cannot spend like half a year on finding out how people with type 2 diabetes live and what their needs are. I have to do like a quick diary study over 2 weeks with, 10 people, and just see what I can get from that.
So I think one thing that I noticed when I talk to my friends who are in academia who are thinking of making the jump is that they're very focused on the what, the content of what they're actually doing, instead of the how, like how they're approaching problems or how they're approaching research. This scientific reasoning or the scientific method is extremely valuable in startups and in companies in general.
But it can be a pretty lonely place at the start, and you do have to build a new network and kind of start to define a new community who understand the challenges of being in a fast-paced, creative, innovative environment where, Anya, as you said, things can change pretty quickly.
If you have a company in mind or a particular job in mind that you would really like to have, it is really a good idea to just reach out to the people who work in these companies, just to ask a few questions about these roles that you may see online or about the company itself, and just to get your name known inside the company and have a quick chat, informal, and then things start to happen much more easily, typically.
The other suggestion I was going to make was around secondments. So I did a secondment. It was in the UK government. It wasn't in a startup, but it really helped me build my skill set outside of academia.
The world outside of academia is exciting. It's really cool. It's so much fun to work in startups and try different things and try to find out, what kind of researcher you want to be.